Hey guys, welcome to part 4. Behind me is a really weird looking tank, I'm sure. This tank is not done. This tank is a work in progress at the moment. This is a tank I am very, very proud of. Because what you're seeing is this is the first tank that I ever drilled, plumbed, built a sump for, built the stand for, resealed, as well as DIY made the decorations myself. This is actually going to be a salt or a brackish water puffer tank. When I mentioned earlier that I have a feeding tank ready, getting ready to go. So I'm going to take you through the process that I used for this. I may actually do a video later on the actual process of drilling the tank. Um, Probably when I go to actually drill my next tank, I'll probably turn that into a video for you guys. So, but for now, here's what I've got. So, we'll start at the top because that seems like a logical place to start. All right, so what we're going to see over here is we've actually got the return. I currently have it actually taped off just because I'm still running tests on this and still working out kinks with it. And then over here we actually have the overflow. So my overflow is going to go from here, from this little area, fitted section. It's going to flow down this pipe that you see here, out the tank, through the bulkhead, down here, into my lovely stand. And then once we get down to the stand, you can actually see the continuation of the plumbing. And right in this area is where I'm going to be hooking up a filter sock and filter sock holder. So the water's going to drain into the filter sock here. And then it's going to come into the sump, down into this first chamber. It'll overflow over this section, and then there's a breaker here. This area here is actually going to have lava rock, which you can find at your local hardware store for barbecues. Very low cost, does the same thing as a lot of the biomedia, but for a 20 pound bag for $10, you really can't beat it. Then it's going to go over here to this chamber. This chamber seems very large, and it is. The reason for the size of this chamber of a 10-gallon tank is that this chamber is actually what is going to house not only the return pump of estimated 400 gallons per hour, as well as my heater. So the heater is going to be held down here, as well as the return pump, minimizing any kind of equipment that I have to have in the tank itself. Now this tank is a 20-gallon tank. It was sitting in my neighbor's garage for a couple years. He gave it to me free of charge, and I used it for experimentation purposes. Mainly because I wanted to see if I was capable of drilling a tank successfully. But we do go over here, and you can actually see here's the return area for my pump. And the water will come back up, return out this nozzle into the tank itself. But as for what this tank is, it was left over in my neighbor's garage. Ended up successfully drilling the tank, installing the bulkheads. At that point, I then had a tank that I had drilled. He had it sitting in the garage because it leaked. I went ahead, actually, and took razor blades, cleaned it with vinegar and vinegar water combination, scraping it down with razor blades, as well as removing any of the sealant that was there. Because while I had an idea of where the leak was coming from, that enabled me to go, okay, it's coming from the back side. I was then able to actually strip out all the sealant from the back side, halfway up the sides of the front, and a bit up the way of the back. Reseal that area completely with brand new sealant. And from there, I was then able to actually do water tests with it in the garage, watch it hold water successfully for days on end, meaning that I was able to then put it into use. And please pardon the dog in the background. She is going to sound like she's dying. She's just perfectly fine and starved for attention, which she is really not because she gets attention all day long. Back to the tank at hand, though. Sorry for the whiny dog. So, I'm going to go into my DIY decorations before I go into the cabinet. What you're looking at is on this side, this is 1/8 inch, 1/8 inch PVC piping as well as 1/4 inch PVC piping. With this, they're coming out of the sand that I have in here, and I have actually mounted them using the same silicone I would for resealing the tank to tiles. So actual just, same kind of tile you would see here in a house. Just my neighbor was working on some home construction, had some old tile. I grabbed some broken chunks and used those to attach this PVC pipe to. Once I attached it to the pipe, to the tile, I was then able to paint it with Krylon Fusion. Krylon Fusion is the only paint for aquariums that is aquarium and fish safe. So if you want to paint your decorations, make sure it is Krylon Fusion. Then we can go over to this side. What you see here is actually a 2-inch PVC pipe. The size of this pipe is much larger because I was trying to go for that kind of industrial, brackish area replication of the look. When it is done, there is going to be a large amount of Java fern over on this side of the tank. And then we're going to go into the hides, which this entire piping system here is one large piping system that has 3 different entryways that you can see. There should be one there, up here, and here. And that gives these the pufferfish somewhere to go and feel safe. Also, cool little feature I kind of gave ourselves is if they wanted to, they can swim up here or even down here, and we can actually see them while they're in their hide. Now, as for the stand, yes, this is a very wide stand that I've made. Part of that is so that I can allow the piping to come in through the side. And what I did here was this entire cabinet stand is made out of 2x4s and 1x4s. The top section here is 1x4s. You can actually see that put together here, 4 1x4s, and they've been screwed in. I pre-drilled all the screw holes and then actually drilled using very, very large drill bit through the top here after measuring, and then measuring again. Remember, when you're building anything, measure 18 times and cut once, because you really can't cut something longer than, once you've cut it, you can't put the wood back on. So from there, we're actually going to look at the actual framing of this thing. What you're going to see is, as I angle this camera and go really weird, so I'm sorry for that, you can see underneath. This is actually a 2x4 that you're looking at right here. I've got 2x4s bracing around both, all 4 column points, and the actual top frame here and the bottom frame are 2x4s. Most of the 1x4s short of the top section are sheerly here for decorative purposes. With that, the 1x4s that are in place on the top to hold the tank, they are there with reinforced bracing in the center. They can help distribute the weight and take the weight of something even as small as a 20-gallon tank can weigh a considerable amount, especially after you filled it with sand, salt for being a brackish tank, rocks, PVC, decorations, and fish themselves. So the 1x4s that come into play more are these, here, where I've just mounted them to the outer sides